It's a big Noah's Ark story, preserving elements of mankind that are unique and irreplaceable. It was really interesting to me seeing the story not from the point of view of people that get saved or big scientists, but more like the working class, blue-collar heroes that have to make sure that humanity is preserved. Casting is always an interesting process. Really, you have an idea in your mind, but then what I really wanted to do and work with the producers was to kind of keep all the options open, because this show is really about these two characters. And it is important to find the right chemistry between them. Action!
When you have two characters that are pretty much having to carry almost the entire movie themselves, you know, you have to kind of make those pillars as strong as possible. And the idea of Norman and Jaimin, you know, working together was really interesting. And, you know, we knew pretty early on that they would, you know, work really well together.
Bauer was always the fun one to work out, because other films that have had these buddy components and that more aggressive but endearing buddy, that's kind of the template for Bauer.
He's interesting because you got to find these little moments where you show a soft side to him or a caring side to him, and they're not real obvious moments. They're kind of like how you watch people or how you listen to people or where you pay attention and, you know, where you give your attention and who you give it to in certain ways, rather than be just a friendly guy, because he's not really that guy. But there is something about him that is warm inside. He does have that, but he doesn't really want to talk about it. You know what I mean?
You seem to want to transpose civilization and care for civilization, and one of the caretakers, one of the guardians of civilization, seemed to obviously have a beef with the notion of having to save lives and care for those, you know, sleepers. But obviously, you come to find out that the reason why he feels that way is because he ends up, you know, having to sacrifice his own family to just be here, just to save himself, I guess, in a way. And I think that notion sort of haunts him over time.
I think he sort of gives up. I mean, that's why he does what he does throughout the movie, you know? I mean, you can only eat dried chili so many times and play chess so many times and flip buttons and pull levers. And what he went through with his family, he let them all die. And that's got to be eating away at him forever and ever and ever. And, you know, like, what types of things does that guy dream about? It's got to be nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. So, yeah, I don't think he's very optimistic.
How's it feel knowing you're gonna die out there, huh? Answer me!
Cartwright's, he's kind of the opposite in that he's very vulnerable. He's not as outgoing as Bauer all the time, and his vulnerabilities has actually kind of like made him not entirely delusional necessarily, but he's definitely feeling a little bit of cracking under the stress.
I've been a huge fan of Jaimin's for a very long time, and to be honest, I was shocked when I found out that he was interested. I was like, wait, we're gonna get to work with Jaimin Hansu? Like, that guy's been nominated for an Oscar. So that was pretty, it was a pretty big deal.
And he seemed like the perfect Cartwright, that is basically the embodiment of hope and sense of responsibility, and is the humanitarian side of the science that's keeping these people alive. Playing against Bauer, who's more the survival instinct and really the fatality of what's happened to these custodians.
Rise the voice of consciousness here. The two dynamics that separate the two, you know, those two characters, that one is does not think much of the job, and the other one is very serious about it for one good reason. It's, his wife is in one of the sleep tanks.
What we see of Abby, other than at the very end, none of that is real. And so, like, everything that she does and says, it's not Abby doing it, it's Cartwright's memories or visions kind of filling in, you know, what would she do?
I think she keeps Cartwright sane in the situation. It's like the only thing that he has to hold on to. And it was very tricky on how to approach her because on one hand, you don't know if at the beginning of the film if she's just a figment of his imagination. We didn't want to make her into sort of ghost-like, flat character. We wanted to bring some life to her. So it's definitely a balance between not being a ghost that just sort of appears out of nowhere, but something like a person that sort of grounds him.
Be uneasy to try and figure out how you're gonna play it. You're gonna play it, oh, this is going on in your mind, or you're gonna play it with, you know, with the notion that, your wife is actually dead.
You're not alone, my love.
If real Abby were standing there, she might have a completely different opinion. So the Abby that we see, I think what's interesting is it's really Cartwright doing a little split personality thing so that he has this voice in his ear.
The only thing these characters have to hang on to is hope. They're isolated. They don't know if they're ever going to get out. They have this huge responsibility to take care of these sleepers, and they themselves don't even know if they're going to make it.
Anytime, these movies are more about character than they are about spectacle, those are always the ones that people respond to, and I think this movie is definitely more intently focused on character.
I feel like my job, once we've discussed the scene, is just to let them loose and be in the moment and connected to each other, and usually I just sit back and enjoy the movie like a member of the audience.